Alright, so first of all, talk about doing Les Mis, because that is the kind of show that, you know, when a show runs that long, you can grow up obsessing about a role and then get to actually play it. So was it like you thought it was going to be? Like after listening to it in the album, you get to play Eponine?
Yeah, so I auditioned for Les Mis when I was 16. Also didn't get that. But it was like the original company, and I got called back for that. So and ever since that moment, I always wanted to play Eponine. And so then when I finally got it, I was only a replacement. So when you replace on Broadway, you don't get to rehearse with the actual cast. You rehearse in a room by yourself with like the stage manager playing all the other parts. And then usually you'll get one rehearsal with the whole cast the day before, the day you go on. So they'll rehearse with you and then you go on that night.
It's called a put-in rehearsal.
But sometimes you don't even get that, and sometimes big stars won't even go to the put-in rehearsal. But usually, mostly everybody does. So I rehearsed on my own, and then and then I got to do it. And Les Mis was such a fun show to do because a lot of that, the staging was kind of left up in the air. In this production, they were like, one time Marius will be on this side, the next time he'll be on this side. You just have to be in this area for this. And so it was already exciting because I never knew where they were going to be. And then during the section where all the guys are picking the girls, you know, to go at your court, like blah, 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 you never know who's going to pick you. And so you have to try really hard to get, because the guys would pick different girls every time.
During Lovely Ladies?
During Lovely Ladies.
Oh yeah, if you don't know, in Les Mis, you have to do ensemble work when you're not playing your role. So Eponine begins, and Cosette as like one of the Lovely Ladies, prostitutes in the background.
Right.
Oh, so that's fun. So you really had to be like, hey, big spender, and you never knew? Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, and so you'd go with different guys every night during the show, or sometimes you wouldn't get picked.
And now this was in the Les Mis had a turntable. What was it like having to sing on that? Were you ever like, my diaphragm? Like, what was it like? How did you support your voice?
No, I think you got used to it right away, and it was fun.
Did it ever stop, like mid-song, or like go the opposite way or something terrifying?
I don't think so. I don't remember it that much. But you know how Seth was saying all the theaters are the same? I remember specifically in Les Mis, how unglamorous it was because we had such a mouse problem there. Sometimes people would go do their quick change and put their shoes on, and there would be a mouse in their shoes. That happened. In my dressing room, I would have mouse droppings all over my makeup. Sometimes in the pocket, I would forget a piece of chocolate in my pockets of my robe, and then I put my hand in like the old wrappers and stuff in there.
Wait, aren't they supposed to be scared of people? Like there were constantly people around, they would just literally hang out in their dressing room while there was a show going on. They wouldn't even like wait till after midnight.
Well, that happened. The people had the mice in their shoes during the show. Yeah. But usually the mouse droppings and stuff would happen. I would come in the next day and see it. Yeah.
Okay, so talk about, you know, the Blood Brothers was like a hit show. It ran for a while, but it wasn't anything like Hairspray. Like, what's it like doing like a mega hit? Because Hairspray was like the Book of Mormon. It was like this mega hit. What was it like for you and for your career? Was it more pressure? Was it more fun? What was the deal? She was Penny in Hairspray, if you don't know.
It was amazing. We start also with doing shows. You usually start out of town, and then they come to Broadway. And the thing is, I've discovered now doing a million shows, like you never know whether you're in a hit or not. Wow. Some shows I've done that I think are going to be amazing end up just fizzling out, and some shows I think are terrible end up being the biggest things in my career.
Wait, like what?
Well, I never thought Xanadu was terrible, but I didn't
Everyone else did.
Everyone else, I mean, yeah.
No, everyone was like, how dare they
joke. Like, yeah, I mean, everyone was just waiting for us to fail.
I remember seeing the audience keep going like, I really think this is good. Like, I remember I was in a state of shock. I'm like, I think this is good, but I keep hearing it's supposed to be bad. Like, I couldn't deal with both worlds, but it was amazing. But you're right, everyone kept saying it was going to be the biggest bomb ever.
So you go into these things, you never know. But Hairspray, as soon as I did the reading, it was like, this is magical. And then we did our first show out of town in Seattle. Again, you don't know how the audience is going to respond. And after Good Morning Baltimore, the audience started screaming, you know, which doesn't happen after the first number. And I feel like and started laughing hysterically after everything, and we were like, oh my gosh, we're in a huge hit. And then, you know, it just got better, and then we moved to Broadway, and we were on like every single talk show and TV show, and every celebrity came backstage. It was so much fun, and we're all still great friends, and we all loved each other. we just performed, because Mark Shaman and Scott
I
Woodman
was there, it was amazing.
did this big concert they wrote the music, and they did this big show at Carnegie Hall, and so a bunch of us had our Carnegie Hall debut singing You Can't Stop the Beat. We did all the original cast, and like Matt Morrison flew in from California, Marissa flew in, they all flew in just to do this concert because we all just love this show so much and love each other, and it was amazing. Corey flew in to do it too.
Seaweed. So, you know, that role is so weird and so quirky. You know, you're such a pretty ingenue, and it was such a crazy, weird, quirky part. In terms of these theater teachers, like, do you really fully commit to these auditions to your crazy weirdness? Like, first of all, did you even audition for it?
Yeah, I auditioned, and so for my audition, I just had to sing a song, you know, of my own choice. And so I usually try and pick something that's kind of sounds like the show, and I also try and get something that relates to the character. So I picked, you've done
that's a
it.
good song.
I picked Gee Whiz. So it's not a theater song, but it's like this 50s song, and I made up a whole backstory where I was like this nerdy girl, and I'm like going up to this guy, and I'm like, so how does it go? Gee whiz, look at his eyes, gee whiz. And then I pretend that he talked to me, and I'm like, turn away. And so they like loved it.
I remember your ending, you're like, but all I can say is, gee whiz. Remember you were like,
stupid. And Penny was originally, they do a bunch of readings of the show where you rehearse for a week and then you just perform it for the creatives and to try and get producers and money people to invest in the show. And so I joined the cast on the third reading, and the reading before me, they cut Penny out of the show. They didn't want her in it.
wow.
Yeah, and so then,
Character.
so Jackie Hoffman and I joined on the third round of readings, and then they kept making Penny bigger once I was in the show, and so
well, talk about that also, because sometimes it can be a blessing or a curse to be part of the reading, because you think, oh, Kara's so lucky, of course she was a shoo-in for the Broadway show. But talk about the other shows you've done up until the Broadway shows.
Oh yeah, like one year I did 5 readings of shows.
Leading roles.
And I was like, wow, which one am I gonna choose? Cut to, not getting chosen for any of them.
They were all major shows. Legally Blonde, Elle Woods.
Yeah.
Nope. Wedding Singer.
Oh right, Wedding Singer.
Perfect
yeah.
role. They're like, no.
Ariel,
Little Mermaid.
Ariel, Little Mermaid, yes.
Can you believe that? And she's like, I've got to have 3 choices and 0 choices. So you never know. Sometimes it can actually backfire doing just like Christine Andreas. We'll talk about that for 1 second. Do you remember that? For Pimpernel.
Right, so another wonderful actor, Carolee Carmelo, had done.
You know Carolee, she's an unbelievable singer and actress.
Workshop of it.
And like all the demo tapes.
And when they hired the new director for Broadway, he hadn't done the workshop, but he came to the workshop because he had been hired, which I think is weird, to watch the workshop. So he saw Carolee do the entire show from beginning to end. And I'm sure she was great. And then when auditions came around, I didn't even know she auditioned, but since he had seen it, maybe she came in and sang a song. Christine Andreas, completely different, came in and sang a French art song, and he was so captivated by that one moment that she had, which I'm sure was great, that he gave her the role and not Carolee. So I don't know what the case was, but I've heard other people say, you know, sometimes when you see what you think of as an entire performance, you go, well, that's how that's going to be. And then you see someone do a 2-minute audition, and your imagination can project all of your hopes, dreams onto that person, and you'll get captivated by what you think is possible. It's not really a fault of the actors, or, you know, in a way, I guess even it's human nature, right? So it's tricky. If you've done the whole thing and they love you, that's great, and sometimes it works out. And sometimes they think, well, okay, that's great. Ooh, it's like dating, right? It's like, yeah, I know. Ooh, what's that shiny object over there? Right? So it can be a lot of heartbreak. Don't tell your kids that.
I know. And I can go back and forth. Like our friend, we have a musical friend, a really good friend named Nika Larson, and she did the first 3 workshops of Beautiful, and for the 4th one, they hired someone else. So she then had to go in for the final Broadway audition knowing they maybe didn't like her. I mean, it's so stressful. And it's actually probably was a good thing because they saw this other girl and they were able to compare, but oh, it's just a stressful thing. So first of all, before I go on, because I have so many stories I want to bring out of these, do you guys have any questions you want to ask of our folk? Yes?